The 10th anniversary is here to shake up the top 10. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, it is time once again for another LR tier list. We haven't done one of these since the release of LR Gotenks, and I feel like it's time we take another stab at it, simply due to the fact that we're we're a week or two into the 10th anniversary, and I feel like at this point we've got a really good feel of the 10th anniversary LRs, enough to sort of place them within our previous ranking. Because pretty soon we're going to be getting some more LR EZAs, and of course the Part 2 units that are going to shake this up even more. So, as always, before we do this, I want to remind guys that I will continue to do these tier lists as you guys have requested, so long as discussions in the comments remain civil. These are strictly my opinions, and of course, if anything on your top 10 is different, let us know in the comments down below why you would switch it up differently. Now, I do mine a little bit differently for those of you who are new here. I always start the tier list with a recap of where we were before. This way you get to see how the units are shifting as the meta shifts, right? Because I feel like when you start from scratch and you start building these tier lists, people tend to forget who was here before, and they tend to forget units who weren't on here at all. Just because you don't see a unit you think is worthy of the 10 up here doesn't mean I think that they're bad. It just means that they've been shifted, and I think by doing it this way, it allows us to see that shift and help us to understand that just because a unit moves doesn't make them bad. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. In this tier list, we look at three major things. We look at consistency, we look at versatility, and we look at power. Consistency meaning what is the function of the unit, and does it do it well, does it do it often, and does it do it consistently? Then we look at versatility. How many different options do you have for the unit, its team, or placements among other teams? And then finally we look at raw power. This could come in the form of either offense or defense. Some units are just so offensively powerful that it really doesn't matter what else they're doing, because that's what they're there for. Think LR Tech Broly, right? And on the opposite end, there are other units that are just so insanely defensive, that is their job, and it eclipses everything else. Think Tech Beerus. So without that in mind, we're going to go ahead and start talking about the shift in units. So first thing I want to do is we'll start with the two Carnival LRs, because I think they are a little bit harder to place here than some of the others. So let's start with the blue evolution of Vegeta, right? This dude has been talked about, ad nauseum at this point. Is he good enough? Is he not? He should have been better. He's Cooler 2.0. No, he's Beastless Gohan 2.0. But the reality is he's actually a phenomenal unit, right? He is the first 220% leader for Universal Survival Saga. And if you already know what Universal Survival Saga is about, you already know that it is a team that has access to the likes of HLUI, Int Blue Evolution, Jiren, Tech UI, right? And then, of course, the crazy support that is the Int LR Universe 7, right? Like, this is a team that is drenched in support but was missing some major offensive power. SSBE and AGL could kind of fill that role, but not until they revive. Tech UI could kind of fill that role, but then again, only for the singular turn of his dodge and his counters, right? He relied on counters to do damage. Blue Evolution doesn't need that. He is hitting damage numbers right out the gate. Now, of course, it is locked behind a medium chance to additional, right? So when we talk about consistency, he does sort of fall short on that consistency part. I do think that he I think he's doing enough supers that it's, you're more often than not going to see the additional supers. I feel like he's more akin to AGL LR Gohan in terms of the amount that he does his additional supers than compared to, say, Cooler or LR Beastless Gohan, right? I feel like he does a lot better in that regard. So it's not as much of a problem, but it is there, and we have to acknowledge it. In terms of versatility, as a leader, not as versatile. He's a Carnival LR, right? He's 220%, not as versatile. But he only needs one Universal Survival Saga to work outside of that. So if you wanted to run him on, say, another lead under a 200% lead, which is still fine for the current meta, at least until the new stages drop, all right? He only needs one other Universal Survival Saga character. AGL UI, Tech UI, right? Like, it's an easy fulfillment, right? You want to run him on a Vegeta's family team, you've got SSB Int to fill the role and give you a revive. So, honestly, versatility, I think he gets one there. He can go onto pretty much any Pure Saiyans team as long as you can run him with the other ones. So, I think he works out there. In terms of power, unfortunately, I don't think he's... I mean, he is the power that the Universal Survival Saga team needed, but he's also, I mean, he's not doing anything that's just wowing you in terms of offense compared to some of the other LRs on this list, right? I mean, he needs orbs, right? He needs his additional supers. He needs UI to do the big damage and stack, right? So, I mean, really, he's probably on par with, on average, he's going to be on par with Evo Ken for the offense there. So, it's nothing that we haven't seen already out of other characters. So, with that, I feel like I can place him pretty safely at number 9. And what this does is this moves Jiren and Gogeta Blue down. Gogeta Blue, I feel like, gets to stay on the list, at least my list, because of his target skill. Offensively, not that crazy. I mean, I feel like he gets to stay just because access to that target skill. Jiren is a one-trick pony for his standby and support. I mean, I guess you could play up his offense, but I mean, you're not going to see incredibly impressive offense out of him unless you're running specific setups to get it out of him, right? Otherwise, he's mostly there for support. So, I mean, I feel like that just kind of moves him into the honorable mentions category. So, let's move on to the next big one I know we are all care about, and this is one I definitely care about, and that is the Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, this guy here. So, this dude has a lot going on for him. He has one of the best protection mechanics in the game, and that is a giant, on-command giant form, as long as you fall below the percentage or you hit turn 5, right? Like, it is so good having that. On top of that, he's basically a tech UI in his phase 1, right, as Super Saiyan 3. With the dodge and with the defensive mechanics. And then once he exits, once you use his active and he goes into Great Ape, he then becomes a pretty offensive monster while in Great Ape. And then once Great Ape is over, he transforms into Super Saiyan 4, where he can begin stacking attack and defense. And right, he's, we're talking about a unit that's coming out the gate once transformed at like 38 to 40 million on the proper setups, right? And it's not that hard to get him set up that way. So for that, I mean, we've got everything you need to, I think, place him right up here at number 2. And I have no qualms putting him here because of that protection mechanic. Any unit with any form of protection mechanic, whether it's a rage mode, whether it's a target skill, deserves a spot on this list because those mechanics are just so valuable. Now, what's hard here is I don't know necessarily that I want to shift Gogeta down, but we will for the purposes of this. So what this does is this pushes off Gogeta Blue, it pushes down Janemba, who I still think deserves a slot here. Gotenks, the trio. These guys, I mean, they're basically one and the same, and I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with this setup here. So Gogeta Blue, even though he does have that target mechanic, you know, still probably not pulling it off as better as much as this, and it's just mostly in his case because it takes so long to get to, which was why initially I had him at number 9. So Goku deserves his spot. He's incredibly offensive once he comes out as Super Saiyan 4. Plus, the other thing about it is Super Saiyan 4 has a not only has some crazy support for Power Beyond Super Saiyan and Great Ape, but also has SA support, one of the best SA supports that you can give. So I do think that that is most deserving of his slot here. He does what he does well. He does it consistently, so he checks that box, right? He is consistent. 70% dodge is but all right, having the capability of having that extra defensive mechanic, right? Just like Tech UI, I mean, it can be worked around in terms of versatility. He can go, he's a Goku unit. He can go anywhere a Goku goes. Gokus are the most versatile units in the game. And he gets to be on Power Beyond Super Saiyan. He gets to be on Super Saiyan 3. He gets to be on Great Ape power. He gets to be on Kamehameha, right? Like he is an incredibly versatile unit and will fit anywhere, and especially under any of his 220% leads, which is his own, and the Vegito, he is an absolute monster. So with that brings us to the moment we've all been waiting for. The obvious, the hands down, the no questions asked number 1 unit in the game. He checks all of the boxes. He is consistent, right? The Vegito, he does insane amounts of damage once he comes out, and even better, he's versatile, the most versatile unit in the game. You want to stack attack? Well, stay in the Goku form. You want to stack defense? Well, hey, it's turn 3, go ahead and tag, go into Vegeta and start tanking and start stacking defense. You're ready for an all-out offensive rush, switch back into Goku and fuse. You need a good defensive unit after the fusion, keep Vegeta, use his active skill and get that extra defensive boost. There is no other unit that checks all 3 boxes of mine better than this unit as of right now. So I am very comfortable putting Vegito at number 1. Now, because of the way he is set up, though, I kind of feel like I have to shift the entire list, and not just shifting down, because of the way his leader, because of the access to 220% leads. This really does affect a lot. I do think that Super Saiyan 3 Goku is not going to shift, but I do think Beast Gohan shifts down a bit, right? Beast Gohan, while still very good, I think just isn't moving as much, right? He's as I've always said, Beast Gohan he checks all 3 boxes, but he is, he's a one-trick pony. He is there to defense, and he is there to target, right? That's what he does. You can get some silly numbers out of him sometimes, but more often than not, you're not seeing those. Goku, however, I mean, the gap is there between him and Beast, and I think it's enough that we could shift Beast Gohan down. Of course, that does mean Family Kamehameha. I would probably move him down here with Gogeta. Just because, you're running them a lot on the same teams. Kamehameha is an incredibly good team. And then Broly is kind of in the same boat, but I don't know that I want to keep him here. I feel like this is probably more appropriate with him, and really, I feel like you could probably actually, you know what? Yeah, I think this is probably better, because I still think Gogeta is probably better than the 3 of them. So I'm going to have these guys here because I think you can make an argument for any of them. I do think the 3 of them are better than these guys here below them. Family Kamehameha is just that, I mean, having access to a nuke like that, especially in those longer fights where you can really take the time to build it up appropriately and set it up correctly, very, very useful. Tech Broly is still doing what Tech Broly does. Int Broly's still doing what Int Broly does, right? Like, they're not shifting because they got worse. They're just shifting because, right, those two new units really shook things up, and the units they give access to under their 220% lead, I think, are what affected the most. Broly's still acting under the 200% lead. I think that's where the issue comes, right? It's just simply these units all have access to the 220, right? Beast has access to the 220. These guys don't yet, but they will as of part 2. Family Kamehameha does have access to it, but they are, you know, he is a little bit more. He has an invulnerable standby, right? That's really what it is for him. Why I'm hesitant to move him any lower than this, because that his standby is probably one of the most useful ones in the game. So honestly, I'm pretty comfortable with the top 10 here as it is. And so I wanted to end with a couple honorable mentions thanks to the new shift, right? Access to the new Vegito and the new Great Ape Power Goku actually brings this guy into mind. Now, this doesn't mean he gets any place in the top 10. I just felt like he was worth mentioning, as he's now a pretty solid option in some of these newer fights, just because there is time to build him up before you stand by. There is time to get out Super Saiyan for full power, and he does actually, because of the support coming from both Vegito and Great Ape Goku, he can actually sit comfortably in slot 2 or 3 in most fights, right? Even Goku Frieza. So honestly, I feel like it's worth mentioning. It doesn't mean he's better than anyone else on this honorable mentions or anybody who you might consider above him. I just felt like he was worth mentioning as a unit who can come into the forefront once more. And of course, access to the 220 for this guy here, the LR Universe 7, right? Access to the 220 combined with his support is crazy. We are talking about, right? It's stacking onto that extra buff that Universal Survival Saga team needed. Not to say the team was bad, it was just lacking that extra offense. Giving what Blue Evolution is providing, and now combine that with their extra 2-turn support, along with the singular turn passive support, we're talking about some pretty powerful combos, and they are definitely worth mentioning here for that support. I think if you didn't think they were good before, try running them on Blue Evolution's team and watch what their support does for the team. So guys, that is it for the tier list. That is where I think these units are as of the start of the 10th anniversary. This is subject to change, of course, once we see the next set of LR EZAs and the part 2 LRs. This might shake up entirely, but I am pretty comfortable with where this list is. But let us know what you think in the comments down below. So guys, that's it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and in the comments down below, like I said, let us know, how would you shift this, how would you shift the list? What would your top 10 look like? Any unit that is next to each other on my list is interchangeable, right? There's just so many units. Honestly, a top 10 doesn't really cut it anymore. We might start shifting to just, you know, tiers, right? Like A to Z tier, because there's just so many good units, and it's hard to pin them down to a singular top 10. But let us know what you think in the comments down below. I always love hearing how you guys would rank units. So that's it for the video, guys. If nothing else, thanks for watching, and aloha.